Why are you being such a prankster? Why do you think that we already have people in government doing this? Why are you as an artist doing this? Why is it important? And because you're consciously using, I understand, you're consciously creating fake narratives and spreading them in society, right? Or did I get it wrong? Can you explain?
I think let's not see again. The way to maybe put this is also part of the narrative. That to imagine this as a prank, I would say instead of that, as an artist, I have a privilege to kind of even talk about the very process that I am
Yeah.
going through.
Yeah.
The very making process of my work is also the work itself.
Explain that.
And when I make
And
myths, when I say that I'm using resources like photo, video, and mass forms of mass communication to kind of proliferate a story within the social fabric. But then, in one sense, I'm also I'm saying this out loud. I'm not hiding the process behind, like saying it. And by doing this,
yeah.
uh, if a viewer discovers another story through the narratives that I have created, then I guess it is a form of stories that have already kind of proliferated through generations. And for instance, I will give an example. Like, imagine you are living in 17th
But
century,
I
and
also want
there's
to
this
know.
beautiful film. Yeah,
I
okay,
also want to know why you're doing this.
okay.
Continue.
Why I'm doing this?
Yeah. Why are you? Why? Like why? Which part of your brain is being activated while what's tickling you? Why can't you be happy with either reality or complete lies? You're sitting in the middle and you're actually the maker. This is the first time I'm meeting someone who's openly saying, "Yeah, like I'm that guy who makes myths." Right? Because because Ved, all people believe that Ramayana is a myth. People believe that the Ramayana and the Mahabharata is a piece of fiction,
Great.
uh, and nobody knows. But here we're meeting somebody after so many years, like you, who's basically the guy who actually is openly, consciously saying, "Yes, I do this. This is what I'm doing, and I want to see what happens." So, would you like to please introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, Vaibhav. I'm Jagrut. I am from Ahmedabad. I have been a visual artist, a designer, and I have also been teaching. So kind of my practice involves multifaceted installations. Sometimes I do installations, photographs. I make photographs. I make videos, make drawings. I'm interested in old photographic processes, like in particular cyanotype.
Nice.
And yeah, I mean, and I studied design in my undergrad. So somewhere I'm kind of interested in kind of joining design and visual art together in installations. And yeah.
I went through your Ashwathama website recently. I found it a little interesting, but I have a few questions. Again, my first question to you is why is it important? So, can you start this conversation by explaining what made you basically go deep into the concept of making myths? Like, why are you being such a prankster? And should anybody trust you? You're the guy who makes up stories. Is that true?
Uh, I don't know. I mean, I make stories, but that should eventually come to the point that you should trust me or not. I don't know about that. I think towards the end of this video, you should decide for yourself. But the project title is actually Forgotten Immortals, and it's kind of a larger inquiry that I have embarked on in the past 7 years,
Yeah.
and in particular since 2000, 7 to 8 years. So now it's 2021, and I started it in 2012. And what I've been doing is I've been going around places in India, and travel around and look for and discover the seven Chiranjeevi. According to Hindu mythology, there are seven Chiranjeevi, सात चिरंजीवी है जिसमें अश्वत्थामा, महाबली, Hanuman, Parshuram, Sadhu Markandeya, Vedvyas. The project is a very larger, as I said, like it's been going on since 2012, and I see that as an inquiry that will be maybe lifelong. And so the first chapter that I've begun to kind of produce artifacts and produce things that I have, as I said, I've been researching since this long. So it is about the first immortal that I've been researching, who's Ashwatthama from the epic of Mahabharata. And Ashwatthama was the son of Dronacharya, who was, famously, famously in the story of Mahabharata, that while the battle was going on, in order to basically make the Kauravas lose the battle, Pandav asked the commander in chief, who was Dronacharya, to the Yudhishthir goes to Dronacharya and says that Ashwatthama is dead.
He's dead. His son.
And and by and the reason for saying this was a manipulative statement in the first place.
Manipulated.
And it was famously the half lie, the half truth, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
That Ashwatthama was definitely dead, but it was not this Ashwatthama that we are talking about. It was one of the elephants who was named Ashwatthama.
Yeah.
So so the beginning of Ashwatthama's story is the beginning of the idea of truth.
I have a question
for me.
Why is it important to have these myths of people being immortals? Like, how does it help people psychologically?
I think it's an innate human kind of desire to remain immortal, to remain forever, because whatever we do, we know at one point of time in our lives, like we understand that life is limited and life is fragile. And also there is this Latin word which is called memento mori, right? Like it's the realization of our death. And it is across cultures. It is across cultures that this idea that we will be no more, but what will happen post us? And that's the beginning of mythology in all cultures around the world. That because the only thing that we cannot say for sure is what happens after death. What happens after this mortal remain of our body? Kind of, we are done with the body. Then what happens to the body?
I can tell you. So, I can tell you what happens.
What's happening is mythology is speculation.
I know. I can tell you what happens after death.
Then you are creating a mythology.
life goes on. for the person for the purpose who's dead, the show goes on. No, for the purpose who's dead. But I kind of find it I kind of find it amazing that you are doing a project that involves specifically fabricating half-truths and fabricating concepts, and you plant ideas in society as realistically as possible. You validate them via websites. I believe you're also doing something with students. Can you tell us what you're doing with students?
Mm-hmm. So I've been teaching workshops at design institutes, and in particular this one workshop kind of dealt with this idea of myth making in the age of fake news. So really putting the context of myth making as a process, as a creative process, as a creative endeavor, to place it into a context in a present time when fake news is, of course, it's not something that is happening right now. Fake news was there. In fact, the fake news word itself was derived in late 1800s.
1800.
And so.
Wow.
Late 1800s, which was, it was in the, I think it was in London somewhere. I was reading someplace. The idea of fake news comes when whoever the ruling organizations or ruling parties or any people in positions of power want to change narratives about society, about themselves, about the very companies selling products. So that in order for the products to be kind of proliferated into masses, you need a story. You always need a story to infiltrate into people's minds, and that's what maybe at the end of the day creating mythology is all about. I would just like kind of give a larger context through history and timeline that
Yeah.
like this is one beautiful film by Amit Datta called Nensok,
Hmm.
and it's about a painter from 17th century who was discovered by B.N. Goswami, one of the art historians. Um, and um, um, and there was this one particular a drawing that Nansuk made on the ghats of Haridwar,
Hmm.
where he very specifically draws the Shiva and with the Ganga kind of flowing out of his head,
Head. Yeah.
and very consciously he writes down the time
Hmm.
that he drew that,
Hmm.
and he also wrote down his name and then kind of recording that he was right at the banks of river Ganga and drawing that,
Hmm.
right. So he was conscious of him being as part of that larger expanse of time,
Hmm.
and considering that one day somebody will discover him and that particular image, and we'll see, okay, this was an artist's work. It was an artist's rendition of the god Shiva,
True. But
and this has been one of the how do you say, like this is what artists did, and that's why the relationship between art and religion is so intrinsic. You cannot uh, differentiate one to the other,
yeah,
because both are, I mean, art gives reality to that imagination that religion
that is true.
portrays.
That is very true. Like for example, my grandmother used to call Raja Ravi Verma's painting the photo of God. So in a way, it kind of like the like if you took that image and if you did anything, it's like Bhagwan ka photo tha. That was like people say, you mentioned in our phone call, you mentioned Hanuman. Can you and you I mean
So it's funny you say a photograph. It's funny you say talk about a photograph, because the kind of the entire project started with that one particular image that I had encountered in one of my uncle's house, and he always used to say, "Oh, ये तो Hanuman ka real photograph." I'm like, okay,
Hanuman ka
let me
real photograph.
rethink about it. Real photograph, yeah, real
Huh.
photograph.
Yeah.
So if you just type in real photo Hanuman, and you will see like millions of articles about it.
Hmm.
And so there's a story that a group went into a cave somewhere trekking in Himalayas, and they went inside, and this guy sees one monkey holding a book of Ramayana, reading from Ramayana, that to a monkey, imagine. And this guy takes a photograph. He clicks the photograph, but he dies because he's encountered Hanuman. So obviously he has to die.
He
So
encountered.
the first
Oh.
person narrative,
Oh. Yeah.
yeah, Hanuman was right there. Hanuman was right
Oh.
there reading the
Yeah.
Ramayana. So, but he took the image, and
Nice.
when
Yeah.
his friends took back the camera back to Bombay and developed it, that's when they realized that, oh wow, he actually took an image of Hanuman, and that was the real photograph of Hanuman. That's the story that's been circulated.
Now, why is this?
If you like,
Why is this important in terms of like for the people?
uh,
Can you answer this? Why is it important for the people to have photographic evidence of Hanuman? I can understand why that is, but I'm just asking you, why is it important? Why does this excite you?
because this is at the fundamentals of what is the idea of photography, and how is the idea of image making has been equated with
Hmm.
reality, and that's what
But isn't it
maybe
real?
that's
I'm asking you. I know it's
sorry.
not. Isn't it reality? Photography. I mean, like, what's your take on it?
See, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what I believe. It doesn't. It will never matter what I believe, because the photograph of the Hanuman, or for the believer, it is as real as for me that it may not be, or for an atheist, as much as God is unreal.
Yeah.
But see, that's where the discussion begins. That's exactly where my project kind of started from. That if somebody can create an image like that, if and again I'm speculating on the premise that this image was made by someone,
Yeah.
then I have the power
You're
to make anything.
you're a non-believer even at this stage of, because as an artist, no, you as an artist, that this stuff can be made. These stories can, because you are the guy who makes this kind of stuff. So I mean, you're always. Are you secretly planting any more such like stories in. I mean, there's a great application for you, man. From like espionage to religion to there are larger
I
applications.
would not want to be in any trouble, no. But as I said, nothing is secret. I mean, it's a project that I want to be out in the open, along with like
Yeah,
it being like whatever its realities and its falsities. Both should be part of the project. And here, I this goes back to when you said secret project. This reminds me of
yeah,
this American, the French artist Marcel Duchamp.
yeah,
And there was this one project that he worked on for some 13 odd years, and it was like this diorama that he had created, and you just have to look at the diorama through a peephole.
yeah.
And for most of his life, nobody knew. None of his friends knew about that project, and it was only after he died that something really came up. But then it was in line with this absurdity of myth making and story making, right? Like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
The
That's
stories are beyond me as an artist or me as Jagrut or somebody as
yeah.
making it. Like
So how do you make sure the story stays alive? Let's go with that. Like, like okay, you've generated this piece of myth in the world. You've written down, you've mapped it. Everything it's based on scientific reality. Now you planted a story. How do you make sure that the story is alive for the next 100, 2,000 years?
mm,
Have you worked on that also, or do you just think about singular stories that will fizzle off in some time, because you want to make a story strong enough that will last for a long time? Is
here,
there any
what I
specific,
my
sorry,
process is. Yeah,
is there any specific thing that you have done? Can you like talk about some specific stories that some specific myths that you have generated? It'll be nice to.
Okay, but I'll start with the process where and I will explain to you about like Ashwatthama, the chapter one that I'm kind of currently working on.
Yeah.
So the way I start um, kind of looking around for stories. So it is not something that I'm planting a story, a completely a new fiction that I'm kind of instilling. That also one day maybe I would want to kind of get into.
Yeah.
But for now, what I'm doing as a researcher, if I go into let's say the Asirgarh Fort area, which is near Burhanpur in Madhya Pradesh, and so first I would go and search for historical artifacts and historical findings in terms of what are anecdotes of the local region and who I mean what kind of stories people tell first.
Yeah.
And so it's a word of mouth which is always exaggerated or masala dal ke sab hota hai. So once you start understanding and once you start understanding the history of the region and all that, you realize that there are loopholes. There are loopholes which are called, I mean, I like to say that they're the absence of information.
Hmm.
So I kind of first map out where 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 are artifacts not there to kind of validate certain parts of history.
Okay.
And one is of course because
But why
photography
why why is it
as a
important?
medium.
Why is it important to fill that gap?
In order for to create a myth, you will have to bridge certain gaps of gaps of validity, I guess. That how do you validate a historical fact?
So you're basically so
I
yeah, no, but like it's like in
sound
a way
like
it's like a it's like a ghost story, right? It's like
huh.
if you don't want somebody to go out in the night, then parents tell the children that don't go out. There are ghosts out. I mean,
Uh,
it's how it starts. So basically, your own brain works again, and you kind of like it fills it. There's like you use fear against the person.
if you look at all these like these news channels who have created content around
Yeah,
Ashwatthama and where he's seen and people say that he's seen.
yeah,
So if those are made as ghost stories, because the moment you tell someone that a person who was part of the stories of Mahabharata, which is thousands of years back,
Yeah,
and he's alive and he's still roaming around, in 21st century itself is a ghost story,
that's true.
right? So
अरे नहीं
here,
लेकिन मतलब न्यूज़ चैनल्स ने तो आई हैव सीन देम एलियंस हैव पिक्ड अप काउज ऑन इंडिया टीवी एंड लाइक क्या बकवास मतलब इट्स लाइक सम you can't digest these stories but like बना दिया मतलब they're on national television people are making stories that's what I'm saying मतलब it's like अरे government uses this no it's like you need to create these stories so that's what I was trying to say it's like I understand this but for a larger audience people no one has the ability to articulate especially to meet someone who actually spins these stories you're doing this as a creative endeavor and some people are doing this as a professional thing so I just it's nice to meet you
exactly.
it's nice to meet you in the middle and ask you all the juice out like what excites you um, like what made you start in the first place can you explain that in the starting how does all this start
Oh yeah, okay. Starting from there, when I was a kid, I used to hear this story from an uncle of mine who always said that his grandmother
uncles
had seen and met
yeah
Ashwatthama.
yeah
Yeah, the
seen
uncles.
he's seen and met
Thanks to
Ashwatthama
these uncles. Seen and met Ashwatthama
he has
while
seen
on a parikrama, Narmada parikrama.
he's seen and he's like met he's like hey
Not him, his grandmother.
oh my god
His
that
grandmother had seen and
okay
met
met
Ashwatthama.
Ashwatthama
So, what is even more interesting in, I mean, if you see all the myths and especially there is this Hindi word called Kivdanti, which means
what does it mean
that they are Kivdanti is like an hearsay.
हाँ मतलब
अच्छा
सुना
सुना
मतलब
है कि ऐसा है.
सुना है कि ऐसा
They
हाँ
say it's possible.
हाँ मतलब
अभी
वो
they say कौन होता है? Who's they? We don't know.
वो लोग कहते हैं बोलते हैं और लाइक व्हेन
हाँ
से
लोग कहते हैं.
हाँ लोग कहते हैं बराबर
So,
so yeah sorry
but
so
this stayed with me for
he
forever,
told
like
you that
for longest time.
he told you his grandmother saw Ashwathama
Saw and met Ashwatthama while on Narmada Parikrama, and and then
and
it stayed with me for long. And while I was researching on,
obviously
like, if you just look around conspiracy theories online, and even if you just type in Ashwatthama,
yeah
even the Wikipedia page also mentions this, because there is a certain story attached to it in Mahabharata itself, that Krishna, when he actually killed all the sons of Pandav,
yeah
and so Draupadi wanted revenge from Ashwatthama.
obviously
That yeah, I mean,
yeah
killing all the kids and all that. So Krishna says that okay, fine. At the end, he had to surrender his gem, which the gem he had
yeah
on his forehead.
yeah
Um, so by surrendering the gem, and he was also given like a curse at the end, not just by Krishna, in fact by other rishis also, that you will live on this earth, a wretched life, and nobody will come to you,
for
nobody will give you any help or anything, and you will be, you'll always be like kind of dreadfully roaming around in the forests and jungles,
oh
and
you'll be given
particularly around the river banks of Narmada and Tapi in Madhya Pradesh.
my god so I mean there's even more reason to validate and believe that this is there
It is there, and that's why it's not said by one person. As they say, a lot of people say, "Okay, acha, stories are like smoke, and itihas is
that's nice
actually the fire."
oh that's a nice line man itihas is like can you repeat that itihas
Fire.
it's like fire
Itihas is like fire. History is like fire, and smoke are the stories.
oh yeah you're right that makes sense beautiful yeah it's beautiful and you are lighting the fire
No, I'm not lighting the fire. That's what the fire is already there.
yeah
What I'm doing is I'm helping the smoke to reach as many people as possible. That's the only thing that I'm doing.
online
So
yeah
that's what I'm saying. Like,
you're
that's what I'm saying,
fanning
that
yeah
the story of Ashwatthama is imprinted, it is inscribed on a stone
yeah
by the Archaeological Survey of India, on the entrance to the Asirgarh fort. It is already written there that from the Mahabharata,
so
the character from Mahabharata it comes here.
so the archaeological survey of India has already done this why are you taking this even further? Like there must be something that is exciting you, right? The seven from the seven immortals, and to
Chiranjeevi.
create more. And why use the archaeological survey of India? You're validating something that's already validated. Have you also work? Are you working on something that is, I don't know, political? Something post truth, something after maybe the current government passes away. Are you using some scientific material? Are you spinning something off there, or is or you don't want to go
No,
down
nothing,
that?
nothing. Whatever I have is out in the open, and it's on. That's why I created that website so that people can discover what I discovered. And
What's the
here,
website called
why
again?
I'm validating, it's called forgottenimmortals.in.
Not in. Okay. Okay. Continue. Sorry. Yeah.
Um, and so basically, I'm in one sense, I'm not validating anything. My project is not about validating the story or its reality, or is it a myth or other. What I am doing as a researcher is just going into this absence of information and kind of figuring out that acha kahan pe, if Ashwatthama does really come to this place, then there has to be other evidences, right? Like there has to be witnesses, there has to be like people who have seen Ashwatthama or at least heard those stories. And
Yeah.
can I be the mediator in that I'm merely the agency of getting the information together and on one portal, like which is basically my website.
Fair
And
enough.
if I can, if I do that, then this story has now, like it will go to people, and maybe somebody else will discover that, oh, Ashwatthama exists or not.
True. True. And why is this? Why is this? How would you justify this as an art project, as an artistic project? Why can't this be like any? Why can't this be any historical, like, or some sociology project, or a writer's spin-off? How do you? Why is this important from an artistic perspective?
Very nice question, because I've always thought of this, that why क्यों मैं ये why is this in the I would say in the context of art world, I would say. So for
No, no. This
in one sense,
this is definitely something like uncharted. People have not gone down this road, and consciously, people might be doing it as bedtime stories, over parties or something. You are actively engaging with this, and there are very few people who are doing this. Again, I'm saying you're very useful, and you can be very dangerous, because you're going to master very soon. You're on the verge of mastering the the art of the art of myth making
making.
in the age of fake news. So it's going to be digested even easier, right? Like people have all we've I mean the precedent has already started. It's bad already. People are believing anything. So it's so easy for you. The soil is fertile now. You'll definitely you'll definitely
Wow, so
you'll definitely do well in
and
life if you continue doing this. So you can make up anything now. And that's I think it's an art project if you sit down and if you specifically do something beautiful with it.
see, that's why, of course, I come from a tradition of like an artistic or, sorry, not artistic, but I come from a tradition where it is an aesthetic endeavor, whatever I do at the end of the day. Like,
Yes.
so at the end, like the artifacts and drawings that I make, they're aesthetic objects, so
Yeah.
maybe that's why they can be placed under the domain of art. But the other thing that I want to say is that because this cannot fit in anywhere else, this cannot fit into a research, like this cannot go into a Lancet research paper.
Scientific. Yeah.
This cannot go into astrophysics research paper. This cannot become a news item also. So it, just because it cannot fit into everything else, that's why
It
it
becomes
comes in the domain of the art.
no, because if it doesn't, you, you said it pretty well, because in a way it's it's almost original, and there is no function to it. So there are some characteristics to what makes art. It's like there's no function. It has form, and it lives for itself. You can't even estimate the value of what you're doing right now. There's no application. It has it has an
Exactly.
it has an inquiry. You can enter this work from anywhere, and you can exit from anywhere. and you're doing this as a human being, so it kind of like qualifies, I would say 50%. Unless maybe people don't know how to monetize you yet, but in a way I feel like
Uh,
I think this is an artistic practice, and you have also done quite a few artist residencies based on this. So you can add in your CV, I'm sure you'll have saying that, hey, yeah, it's art because no, I'm just joking, I'm just like, yeah.
uh,
So okay, like, so you're
myth for that.
so you've been gullible as a kid. Okay, your mama told you, your uncle told you something,
Very gullible.
you
Yeah.
believed it. I I look at you like a grown guy now, saying that okay, his brain is fully developed, but you still stuck on this thing very sweetly. Like, for you, this thing excites you somewhere. Right now, where do you take this forward?
Hmm. Wow.
Now, be careful. Be
Um,
careful. It's like, as a friend, I want to ask you, like, you're getting only older and crazier, right? You're going to get more rigid in life. There'll come a
uh,
time. There'll come a time when your own reality and what you've constructed might grind against each other, and then you already are a part of so many myths, based because you are a product of your environment, and there's so much already happening. Now you have understood that anyone can make a myth. Then who are you going to trust in the future? Don't you feel like you'll like kind of like it'll affect you negatively? I'm worried, so I'm just asking you. Yeah,
uh,
yeah, because you're going
no,
into
that's sorry, go ahead.
no, no, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous space. I look at it as like a scary space. It like it intimidates me.
No, what has happened is while doing this one, again, as I said, like this has been going on for 7 years. Not that I have been on like this is my full time inquiry. ऐसा तो नहीं है. Like I've not gone mad as of yet. So I do other things, and that kind of fuels this project also and this work.
Yeah,
But I would say, as like since last 7 years after like kind of off and on doing this project, I have become quite rational in my thinking. Also, I'm also reading like a lot of interesting books, and especially Narendra Dabolkar's The Case for Reason, which is especially within somebody like Narendra Dabolkar, who was part of like the Indian context and going into villages and explaining people the ill effects of bad faith,
yeah,
and to understand. So in that sense, I also want to put myself into this rationalistic kind of viewpoint, and to because I can now create things, I understand that other people also creating the same way that I am creating.
yeah,
And like you said that this is unique. I would in fact argue that this may be unique because I'm doing it out in the open and just telling you how it's done,
yeah.
but other people are doing it as a malpractice, and that's where
I find it
the
interesting.
differentiation I want to kind of create.
Have you kind of
Right, this is not a malpractice.
yeah? Have you kind of structured how a myth is made? Like, somehow, like, have you like, can you like break it down to say that you take a bit of reality, add a little bit of
Sorry,
yeah,
masala dalo.
add a little. Where does the masala? Where does what is the special magic sauce that makes a myth based on based
So
on your experience?
first, I mean, I think it always begins with a location
A physical
and
location.
a certain physical location. And see, in one sense, this project, particularly Ashwathama and all the other forgotten immortals, they are part of stories that are around us, including Hanuman or Ashwathama or Mahabali, who are part of our cultural fabric already. They are already part of our collective imagination.
But that's only because you're Hindu.
So
So otherwise, nobody else
yeah, of
would.
course. No, yeah, I mean, largely speaking, in the context of India, like even if you are from other religions, maybe you've heard of the stories, or
Yeah,
at least
just
you are,
it's stuffed down your
because it's
it's
it's part
stuffed
of.
down your throat.
Yeah, exactly. It's stuffed down your throat. Yeah. So
Yeah,
even if you didn't want to, believe it or not, you
yeah,
you are already part of that.
yeah,
So it doesn't matter.
yeah. But you were
So
saying what's the magic sauce? It's like, don't forget that. I'm like damn curious because I'd like to make some. I'd like to I'd like to spread some bad news about my neighbor in the neighborhood. So what is? Please help me. How do I? I've never bitched about anybody, or I've never like done this. So like, this is the greatest exercise So like, please, Sensei, teach me how do I make something up about somebody or about something? How do I go about fabricating a lie? How do I go about spreading fake news? How do I go about making a myth about my neighbor? And I hate him, for example, or let's say I love him and I want to build on this story or whatever. What's the the magic sauce? Like you said, you first take a location.
Look, I mean, I don't know about the neighbor. I don't want to.
No, no, I've
I
never,
want to be in trouble that way.
I've never bitched about anybody in life, but that person I want to say something about. So I desperately need help from a master. I need Sensei. Please teach me how do I spread fake news, and please tell me what does it take? Okay, I have a physical location. Then next, I take 30% physical
Uh,
location, then 5 grams of what, like some old news. What is it? Please tell me.
See, I think location, of course, that's one thing, but I
Yeah.
think the identification of stories that are in this interesting limbo between myth and history. Okay, I want to go a little one step back and just talk about like maybe Mahabharat right now.
Okay. Okay.
That Mahabharat is a very interesting text. That the first few chapters,
Yeah.
it kind of differentiates, it puts itself, and if you, what I've been, Vivek Debroy's Mahabharat, the first few chapters was something as a later addition to Mahabharat. The original is like the 18, I think 18. Again, I'm no expert in Mahabharat, but the first few chapters that I was reading, and I realized that it refers to its story as itihas,
As Itihas.
and as
Yeah.
itihas. So, which is very interesting because according to our modern lexicon, like itihas or its translation in English, which is history,
History.
talks about a factual things that have happened in past,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But this idea of itihas, or at least whoever wrote the first few chapters of Mahabharat,
Hmm.
because that was, as I said, like a later edition, and maybe it was written by subsequent writers, and
Yeah.
and many people have kind of
Added
put
to it.
together the text.
Yeah.
So it clearly had an intention to begin with, by placing the entire text and saying that this is history.
Yeah.
You're already placing the story as,
Uh,
you're already manipulating. You're already manipulating that this text is history,
yeah.
and by saying that, you are legitimizing the stories and the characters and people,
From the
and
first
that
moment. Yeah.
from the first moment, like maybe 500 years back or 1,000 years back, when those verses were first written, and
Yeah.
again, if you understand properly, like Mahabharat or any such texts have gone through multiple iterations. It's not,
Yeah.
I mean,
One
people
form.
say that about a lot of texts
Yeah.
in this, on this earth, that it has come down from the heavens or from the god himself or herself or whatever,
Yeah.
right? So in that sense, to argue against the text is already lost.
Yeah.
The idea of like, अच्छा ये सही है
And
कि गलत है, वो
if you
you
say
you
anything,
cannot go into that.
if you say anything against it, then you'll just be uh, like thrashed.
That's used politically, right? Like it's a
Yeah.
political,
Weapon. It's
I mean,
weaponized.
weapon also.
Yeah. So in a way,
But
you.
so, okay, so the secret ingredient, coming back to that, okay, secret ingredient
I hate him.
is,
Yeah.
it has to be in this somewhere in this loop. It has to
Has
come
to.
out of this somewhere in this loophole. कि
Yeah.
अच्छा ये history है या
Yeah.
story है.
Yeah. Yeah. It should sound believable. It should sound like a known unknown, not like a fully unknown unknown. But again, I have a question. I want to ask you, like like the subject of God. Okay, it's so out of the world. It's so out of the world that people believe it. Even though I don't know. I don't want to say much, but in my opinion, it's completely it's a complete myth. It feels like all the literature. It feels like in one religion you have someone flying on a horse. On another religion you have um, an animal's head on a human. Then you have pagan references, that the goddess is actually a water body, or it could be anything, or that the way like for example Christ has been made real by Leonardo da Vinci, the painting Salvador Mundi, and he's actually looking at you in your eyes, and things like we follow the Gregorian calendar. It's like it's 2021 years since BC, it's since he passed away, since Christ. So in a way, it's like I kind of understand, but like, how do you think that started? Or like, if that can start, then we have already programmed the software patches already ready. It's so soft already that you can literally inject anything into it. Are we like that weak, or is the whole journey for us to go from being soft to being highly rational? And who are you, by the way? That's also something I wanted to ask you. What's your
Oh wow. See, I mean, that's I would say this again also, that my role as an artist is of the same thing that maybe 1,000 years back somebody like maybe doing gold foiling for Tanjore paintings and representing Lord Vishnu
yeah
is the same role that I see of myself by doing this project.
yeah
And in that sense, I feel artists
interesting.
have to be away from this question of God hai ki nahi hai, because in one sense,
It's a
for
non-concept.
somebody, let's say for the example I gave, like of Nensuk, like drawing Lord Shiva.
Yeah
Lord Shiva was absolutely real for him,
yeah
right? In that moment, in that instance.
yeah
So to imagine it was because of those imaginations that was fueled by the stories and stories that were told through generations,
yeah
that he could draw something like that,
bring it to life. Yeah,
bring it to life, right? Like, so in fact artists are the ones who are bringing gods to life. So
that's true.
I want to see myself as God maker rather than God believer. So
That is a very, very interesting thing you said. No, actually, it makes total sense, man. Because I mean, they,
uh,
they refer to artists as creators, and that they, with the ability to create. And you're looking at someone who
aham
want, yeah,
aham brahmasmi.
aham brahmasmi. Yeah, yeah. No, so it's pretty amazing what you just said. Okay, like so you don't is are you easily are you gullible is what I want to ask you. Like if someone comes and tells you something, in a party, somebody just says something to you. It's like पता है उसने ऐसे किया, पता है this happened, पता है कहने को लोग कहते हैं कि do this do that. Are you like do you naturally doubt them, or do you be like hold my beer?
No, I'm a skeptic. Yeah, I'm a very. I like to think of myself as skeptic, but yeah, I'm like all people in this world. Any human being, I'm also gullible at times
Yeah.
with my emotions, and
Uh,
at times I'm also afraid. I'm also angry. I'm also happy. And in those moments of whatever lows or highs that I am, and if somebody kind of again, but yeah, I mean, I like to question what has been fed to me, um, and in terms of like even the news that we watch, or anything like, you want to you would want to question it, I guess.
why
Yeah.
is it important to question what is fed to you? It's a great point. What you asked, what you just said. Why is it important to question what is fed to you?
An unexamined life is not worth living.
Explain that. I
Let's
like
put
nice.
it put it that way.
Very nice. No, but like for a larger like people who are watching this podcast, and people who are listening to this podcast, and people who are watching the video, they'll be like, why should we believe? I mean, then there's no fun in life, right? If you're going to start questioning everything and everything, you can't be that kind of person. But critical thinking and like looking at something objectively is very important. But are you saying that the world should be careful because guys like you exist?
No, but that's what I'm saying. Like I am merely somebody who's just maybe holding that mirror to everyone that hey, look, this is what's been happening all around you. मैं कुछ नया नहीं कर रहा हूँ. What I'm doing is only telling you that this is happening.
True. True.
Uh, so in that sense, no. I mean, but again, who am I to tell anyone क्या करना है, क्या नहीं करना है?
You
And
are.
in terms of even question, no, I'm not telling anyone. I want you to discover those truths for yourself
That's true. Okay.
by looking at my project, by looking at the artifacts that I've created.
Nice, nice. Can you give me an example of a project that your students might have done and that they have, like, what is their methodology and how they have pushed a narrative? It might be funny or might be something very serious. I don't know. It's like something your students have done that you have helped push out in the world, like some fake news or some myth that you have started.
I don't know if it has really kind of gone into public realm, but so there's this one student who did a project in Jabalpur, and Jabalpur is also the pathway where Narmada crosses through. So on the ghats of River Narmada, there are death rituals. And among the death rituals, she actually, so there were two students who did this project. So both of them, they got together and they devised a death ritual, completely a new ritual called Pancho Sanskar. And something that they came up with.
What?
And they related it. Yeah, Pancho Sanskar. So what they did, they asked someone to say, so they interviewed someone as a Pandit. And the Pandit explains the entire process of kya karna hai, you have to bring fruits and this and that and ek diya jalane ka and all that. And and to legitimize this Pancho Sanskar,
Yeah.
they created one figure, like all gods and demigods.
An idol.
So it's a sort of a demigod which has gone into Narmada, which lives inside Narmada river and kind of comes out only every full moon day or something. And they also created, like, it's like a sort of Garud looking creature that goes into the river and kind of, nobody sees the creature, but one point of time, only on full moon days when you're doing the Pancho Sanskar is when you kind of encounter the creature.
Okay.
So taking reference of the Loch Ness monster kind of a mythology.
So 100 years later, if this continues, then this is going to become a reality for many people, and there might be festivals around the Pancho Sanskar, and it'll give hope. Okay, why is it? I'm going to ask you this again. Why is it important for people to have more and more beliefs like this? Like, by starting something, this is a beautiful example. By starting something like what your students have done, I think it's pretty funny, but still what they have done is they have added and contributed to another myth in the world. And now if it picks up and if people start, hopefully they have not watched this podcast and know the origin story, but like, if let's say they just find the idol somewhere and, maybe they find the video clip somewhere on YouTube and it becomes something. It might become a full-blown festival and people might dance around it and people might, I don't know.
Wow.
Is that what the end?
What's wrong with that? Yeah, if
No.
that happens, nothing like it. Imagine like all the economy being fueled by big events like that. Another Kumbh Mela maybe around Narmada river banks also.
And it's come from two students from SEPT or NID.
NID, yeah,
NID.
two students from NID. But yeah, I mean, it was a workshop.
So you're basic.
They were also trying to figure out a story.
No, I'm shocked because if this can happen, if this can actually become something larger, then this kind of like you have to put the lens back on so many festivals and be like, oh wait, who started this? And nobody really knows. Then you're
But so are I mean, that's how myths are. That's why myths are so fluid that it doesn't have a beginning point nor it has an end point. Like, because it's so easily kind of
it's fluid.
How do you say, like, kind of fluid and moves through societies and cultural fabrics,
Yeah,
like even without consciously knowing it. Like, you are very subconsciously aware of these stories, and somewhere it comes to you, or at least even if you use it as analogy,
Yeah.
it is it
Yeah.
changes a lot of things.
But how do you, again, I'm asking you again, how do you make sure it lasts? Apart from, like, let's say these students did this thing, how do you make sure that it lasts for another 100 years? Is that a part of your
Wow.
project also, where you kind of like,
Mm,
did they
wow.
tell at least 3 4 more people, so that some young girls or some young guys, so that at least for the next 70 years, somewhere in the subconscious the story would have gone, where they would have told them while playing marbles or something like that, so that it slowly, it mutates, the story mutates and grows and grows.
Wow. No, I have, but I would, yeah, I would love to. You're giving so many ideas
I'd
actually
like to
to
sit
kind of
with you,
work
and
on, because
plant some new things, especially
let's do,
about my
let's
neighbor,
do
especially about my neighbor. Help
that.
me in this in this neighborhood. I don't like him, man. Okay, anyway, so no, I'm just like asking for advice. It's great. It's like, it's kind of like opened up my. It's like opened up my. Without seeing a visual of yours on the blog, or without, you've kind of like explained it very neatly.
I think, yeah, I think today's discussion was fantastic, even better, I feel.
I have a real genuine question. Since you're doing all this, I'm very open about it. So about my political leaning, and I don't care. But has Sambit Patra met you? Because recently he was banned from Twitter. He had a manipulated tweet.
No, if
So I'm sure that,
if you would have met me,
if no, no, I'm saying, I'm sure you have a job somewhere. What are you doing in the art world? And like, you in a way, there's great application. I'm again saying that governments need you. This is an international project what you're sitting on right now. It's like, it has great value, man. It has a lot of power.
if Sambit Patra had met me, then he would not have had the manipulated media tag on his Twitter.
Oh, nice. Because you would have done it, perfectly. So what he did,
Yeah, अरे कैसा ऐसा तो कैसा बना है कि पता चल जाता है.
how, what would you have done differently? You would have made sure that the print of the letterhead would have been a better quality.
No, that requires my time. Like,
But
maybe Sambit Patra should
you noticed he gave an interview recently, and he
get in
had
touch.
50, he had all the Bhagavad Gita, and he had like all this Hindu scriptures and books and all, and then he also had 50 shades of grey in that.
But that's see, that legitimizing some kind of, that people do that, and in fact he also does this. That he has like lots of books on his bookshelf
Yeah.
on the backside when he's talking to on the Zoom, or
Yeah.
on any debate or anything.
Yeah.
And that kind of, when a lot of people have been, in fact, a lot of people have been hiring designers to just put what kind of books
Yeah.
they want to, want others to see.
Yeah.
So that way, I think that kind of manipulation of stories is very, how do you say it? Like,
It's it's branding.
it's for present time. I'm not, no, it's for present time. The time I'm interested in, time period, like mythologies don't happen overnight, or myth making cannot happen overnight.
Yeah.
Be expanded in like maybe years and years of time period, and then it makes sense, right? Either ऐसा prank को देखो, या you look at कोई मजाक कर रहे हैं, वो चीज खाली लिमिटेड होता है, लिमिटेड टाइम पीरियड पर होता है.
Huh.
It's like the difference between one night stand and marriage. Myth is a marriage,
Myth
and
is-
prank is a one night stand.
I think marriage is a myth. And a one night
Marriage is a
and a one night stand is a prank. No, wait. Repeat that. Articulate. Maybe you want to rephrase that, because you'll go into trouble. My wife is giggling from behind. Why have you decided to do this project at a time like this, when there's so much fake news everywhere, there's so much lies, and why are you doing this as an artist?
Especially in the present time, considering, in terms of fake news today, and it is fake news is all around us because it's in the news, and it's because we're going through a crisis right now, and hence fake news is something that we need to tackle very very aggressively, and of course rightly so, because I mean, to what I am doing as an artist and what I am trying to do with my project here is not part of any malpractice. I'm not going around, making
I'm not sure.
making fake news because I'm interested in some certain kind of outcome. I don't know what the outcome will be
Yeah.
of the myths that I'm generating.
Yeah.
And again, this myth is not generated by me. I'm merely kind of putting together artifacts from my research. जब मैं ये सारी जगहों पे घूमने गया हूँ और जाके लोगों से बात की, I went and interviewed people. I also collected items that are not easily accessible to everyone.
Yeah.
तो जाके सबके साथ बात करके ये हो सकता है, right? In that process, there is a new myth that is being generated even in my mind. It is not so the myth already exists. It's just that I'm like a researcher. I'm just going and trying to gather as much information as possible for myself, more so than anything
Cool.
else.
ऐसा
And this, I'm just kind of putting it out there through my website.
ऐसा कोई मिथ है जो किसी ने तुझे बोला होगा और तूने बोला चल इट्स लाइक भग इधर से, इट्स लाइक झूठ बोल रहा है, और इट्स लाइक नहीं ऐसा हो ही नहीं सकता, और इज देयर ऐसा कोई मिथ है जो तूने कभी किसी दोस्त के साथ बैठ के इन सम पार्टी समवेयर पीपल आर लाइक पता है लोगों ने ऐसा कहा, हैव यू एवर मतलब कभी कन्फ्रंट किया उसे या बोला कि तूने कभी 2 बार सोचा इसके बारे में कि मैं तेरे साथ बैठा हूँ तू मेरे सामने ये बात कर रहा है, मैं ही हूँ जो
Okay, I'll tell you something that we did as a prank. Like that was a prank. See, that was so I differentiate between a prank and a myth.
Yeah.
So the prank we did, this was during my school times. क्या किया था हमने कि एक email account. Like this was early years and early days of email.
Yeah.
Emailing.
Yeah.
So we created this account. मुझे याद भी नहीं है क्या नाम दिया था, Desi Bird or something like that. And so we हमारा victim था एक दोस्त, another friend of ours. So we were writing to him as if we were writing like one of the girls. He had a crush on this girl.
Yeah.
So we were writing to him as if we are that girl.
Yeah.
अच्छा वो आज तो तुमने देखा, आज तो तुमने you were wearing this and all that.
Yeah.
So I mean he was gullible enough to believe what we were writing.
Yeah.
So we asked him कि अच्छा हम लोग वहाँ पे मिलते हैं स्कूल के पीछे वाला झाड़ जो है उसके बाजू में.
Yeah.
We'll meet. And so we saw him go there and standing there for long and all that. But then later on, of course, we told him. But that was the beginning of this entire
project.
Prank business.
Prank business.
पर वो prank था.
No, like.
But of course, then he reported. So then they colluded, him and the crush. They both colluded and they were like, अच्छा तुम लोग को तो principal के पास ले गए and we'll tell everyone what you did and all that.
Yeah.
So of course we had to apologize and all that. So
wait, you see.
But then yeah.
You see stories like Heer Ranjha, Laila Majnu. All of these stories are also like in a way comes under your domain, under the act of myth making in the age of fake news. And why especially
No.
मुझे पूछना है कि तू ये title जो है it implies something. Myth making in the age of fake news. You're not saying myth making full stop. You're saying in the age of fake news. What is the meaning of having this sentence stretched out just that much more? Why not just myth making? You're implying
because
that time.
As I mean, in one sense, myth making has been happening through years and centuries and all that. Like,
yeah.
Why do I consider this as an age of fake news? Because now, more so than ever before, the resources of manipulating media and resources to just use different modes of mass communication to to put out a story
Yeah.
out in the public domain, and um, this relationship of the collective imagination
Yeah.
versus personal belief,
Yeah.
that's where somewhere there is a major disruption, I feel.
Yeah.
And in one sense, let me say something, that could not, or a lot of people might like it, but I mean, imagine the repercussions of believing in a myth so much
Yeah.
that today, and just what, 20, 30 years back, a monument was basically broken down. A 16th century monument, the Babri Masjid, was ransacked, and it was a historical artifact which was
Yeah.
ransacked.
Yeah.
And another temple will be, eventually be made there. So this entire process of what happened around Ram Mandir is a
Is the
uh,
is the
is a
climax of what your project
is the
can be.
climax of, नहीं, पर beginning of the age of fake news. It is the beginning of the age of fake news, I feel.
Oh
Because
my
अभी तो
god,
ये तो precedence set हुआ है.
that is scary.
This is a precedence that has been set. कि अच्छा ये तो हो सकता है. Look, we can
Yes.
we can, and in the entire expanse of human history, maybe this is just yet another
Yeah.
event.
Yeah.
जो कितनी सारी ऐसी हो गई. Look at Hagia Sophia. It has been turned into a mosque. It has been turned into a church.
Yeah. Yeah.
मॉस्क चर्च होते रहता है यहाँ पे. टेम्पल मॉस्क
Yeah.
somewhere, but so what I'm trying to say is that, again, I want to look at it from a very omniscient viewpoint, and see this happening like in the entirety of human history. ऐसा नहीं है कि अभी हो रहा है ये,
Yeah.
और एक बार हो रहा है. It's just that we have been witness to this incidents, and
But
hence we feel
नहीं,
that, oh
but
wow, like क्या हो गया.
किसी ने कभी ऐसे बोला नहीं कि हाँ मैं हूँ वो जिसने वो फेक न्यूज़ बनाया, जिसने वो प्रोपोगेट किया, जिसने. But you have, as an artist, you're compiling all the footage, and you're compiling all the Ashwathama stories, and you're compiling all the Chiranjeevi stories, and you're doing it. I just wanted to also, नहीं सिर्फ पूछना था कि मतलब ये ज़रूरी क्यों है, why is it important again, because it's like मैं बार बार पूछता हूँ why is it important, क्योंकि you can go deeper and deeper into specifically how you think. Forget the world, forget everything, just have a chat with me about what makes this so special for you, and why you think it's important. But in that one answer of why you think it's important, a lot can come out from that.
And this, as if I want to simply say it, then this idea of this whole idea of like myth making itself becomes even more important in current times. Is, as I said, like there are real repercussions of mythological stories, and if we begin to, and I'm not saying, again, I'm not part of any popular kind of a process or popular platform also, so that this becomes like myth, everybody should become a myth maker. वो भी मैं समझ रहा हूँ कि वो तो obviously possible नहीं है.
Yeah.
It's creative endeavor at the end of the day. But by doing this, by just being in this process, or through me, if somebody is looking at कि अच्छा ये आर्टिस्ट भी कर सकता है, देखो ये तो कोई भी नॉर्मल एरा गैरा आर्टिस्ट है, कुछ भी बना के बोल रहा है कि ये ऑथेंटिक है and validated है and all that.
You give
So
hope and also
by
educate.
no, not hope. In fact, people should be skeptical, saying that अच्छा ये देखो ये तो आर्टिस्ट कर सकता है, तो कोई भी कर सकता है.
That's true. Yeah. No, but like some people can be like, hey, wow, this is a fresh thought. This is this is a great idea, right? You can build a whole social media franchise based on just this idea. Let's lie, like let's create a. I
Well,
mean, I think that's
already happening.
yeah, that's already happening. No, it's a great chat. All right, I am in a way I'm done with my questions. I think you have satisfied my thirst for understanding why this is important, and I do agree this is important. That when you mentioned the Babri Masjid, I was like, okay, this is important. I totally take your point. I would like to say thank you to you for coming on the show and explaining your ideas.
Thank you so much.
Your project seems to be very, very interesting, and it has, again, I'm telling you, it has great power, right? It has great power, and I think that I'm just curious to know where you take this forward. Hope to see you someday.
Yeah.
somewhere, some in on some platform somewhere in fake news in the world, right?
No, no. See, if mythology will never it's not a one breaking news that will happen. It so easily seeps into your life that you will not even realize that this was a myth or this was and that's if I have done that, then that would be truly the achievement of what I've done.
We
if
should.
if you do listen to it like in one go in one if you read it in an article, then it has not done its job. It has to be part of your life.
Wow, that is amazing. Go tell Sambit Patra that. All right, cool. All right, thank you, man. Thank you so much. It's been a great chat.
All right, man.
Yeah, it's been great
Great. Thank you
talking
so
with you.
much.
Yeah.